Happy freaking Monday, Orange Nation. This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Well, I'm not in the greatest mood. Are you? How was your weekend? What'd you do? I watched Syracuse get their butt kicked and then watched other games and just kind of chilled. And it was glorious weather here in the DMV. But that game sucked. I don't know how else to say it. Um, at first when I was like, oh, why is Duke a 4.5? It was like 6.5 and 5.5, 4.5. I think up right before the game on Saturday. 4.5 point favorite on the road. They're 2-2. Syracuse is 3-1. Syracuse just beat Clemson. Duke did have a win the week before. I'm totally blanking on who it was. It doesn't really matter. They were 2-2. But yeah, why was the Duke the favorite on the road? And then of course I assumed it was because Syracuse's quarterback Steve Angeli, who was leading the country in passing yards heading into the Clemson game, he's gone for the season. So they have their backup in Ricky Collins, who was the presumed starter until Angeli transferred from Notre Dame in the spring. And yeah, and I don't know jack about odds and all that stuff, but obviously the odds makers felt that was problematic for Syracuse, and yeah, they were right. So Syracuse, as we all know, lost 38-3. Sometimes you just have a bad game. Um, Remember last year when Kyle McCord threw five picks, like as in interceptions at Pittsburgh. Say that fast 5 times in a row. He had 5 interceptions. I think 3 of them were returned for touchdowns. They got smoked. I think it was by 28 points or something. They came back and won 5 out of the next 6. So I'm not saying Syracuse's season is over or anything like that. Now, certainly, I'm not saying also that Ricky Collins is Kyle McCord. Now, he didn't have a great game, and I get the cause for concern. But I was on social media, covering the game elsewhere on Saturday, and a lot of fans were frustrated, and I was too. But some were also making these blanket statements, not just oh, the season's over. Ricky doesn't even deserve to be a D1 quarterback. Put in Luke Carney or Jakari Williams, and I get all the frustration. I do. But a couple of things. Number one, it was Ricky Collins' first start in college. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's been in college for 3 years. He was at 2 years at LSU, here at Syracuse. But it was his first career start. Okay? So, if he has another bad game or two, then I'll start to really be like, But, one game? Really? I mean, and he's played in other games. And he played in the Colgate game. And he had a touchdown and an interception. And his decision making is concerning. And I'll get into all that in the next segment. But, give him a little time. More concerning for me was just I felt, and I feel like I never will say this for a Fran Brown coach team, but I'm not saying they didn't show up to play, but dude, they got smoked in front of a sellout, or at least the announced crowd was a sellout crowd. I wasn't at the game. I live in Baltimore and Nashville, so I try and get up to Syracuse when I can, but I got family obligations. So, but anyway, on TV, it didn't look like necessarily was a sellout, but still a big crowd. And, the defense was bad. I'll talk about that more. And Fran Brown said he got out coached, and he did. That doesn't mean Syracuse's season is over. Stuff happens, but it was a bad loss. It wasn't just they lost by a touchdown or a game-winning field goal or whatever. They lost. They had turnovers. The defense was awful. Ricky Collins wasn't great. Jonte Cook had 2 fumbles. The kickoff guys, I think it was Jaden Hart was doing some of those. I mean, he made some questionable run backs when he could have let the ball go into the end zone for a touchback. They just got their ass kicked. Am I allowed to say that on the air? Sorry if I get in trouble. They got their butt kicked. And one thing I'll say about Duke, I know they were coming into this game, they were 2-2, and they had lost to Tulane at Tulane, although Tulane's proven a pretty good program in recent years, and they did get their butt kicked by Illinois. But they came into this year, with Mensa, their quarterback who transferred in from Tulane, ironically. They were picked 6th in the ACC preseason poll. Syracuse picked 12th. And preseason polls don't mean jack other than just something to talk about. But I just, for me, look, Syracuse, I'm not saying, they're probably not going to go 10-3 this year. Even if they go 7-5 or 8-5 or 7-7 or whatever it is, and they get to a bowl, but like, just be competitive. Like, shoot, they on a neutral at a neutral site in the season opener against a ranked team in Tennessee, they lost by less. Would they lose by? Was it 19 or something like that? 45-26? I don't know. And again, Angeli wasn't in there, and it's Ricky's, comes in, and that's a tough ask. They didn't give the ball to Yassine Willis enough, in my opinion. And the team just stunk. What else is there to say? We move on. So let me grab a drink here. I know some of you guys have made comments. You love my mugs. Well, they're my mom's mugs, so you can tell her that you don't like the mugs. So yeah, Ricky was not great, or he wasn't even good. I mean, I think he completed like 65% of his passes for like 229 yards. He had a fumble that he recovered. He had a pick. The dude has an arm. He's mobile. He's got to make better decisions. He's got to get rid of the ball quicker. That'll come in time. He's got to make better decisions in terms of, he seems like a little bit interception prone so far this season. And frankly, I think he needed to look to spread the ball around. And I don't like being an armchair quarterback, but whatever. This is it's a podcast. I'm going to give my opinions. I feel like he targeted Jonte Cook, who obviously is a very talented receiver, even though he had a rough game. I think he had like 85 yards, somewhere around there, 8 catches, something like that. But he had the 2 fumbles. But he was targeted like almost as much as the rest of the guys combined. I mean, it was pretty close. So, Ricky's got to move the ball around to different guys, spread it around. I think Angeli was pretty good at that. Kyle McCord was definitely good at that last year. And I think Ricky, it looked like, well, it was tough for me to tell on TV, but I've read some articles where, some Duke players were quoted, and they were saying that he was that Ricky was looking at his first receiver, looking at it, staring him down and throwing it right to him. And you want to mix it up. So, fans saying he's not a D1 caliber quarterback, I mean, that's bullstot. He's a 4-star prep recruit. He went to LSU. He shadowed Jaden Daniels, who won the Heisman and is now with one of my hometown teams, the Washington Commanders, unfortunately injured these days. And then he shadowed Garrett Nussmeier. I butchered his last name, sorry, who's, he's a good quarterback. He could be a pro prospect, although LSU lost over the weekend at Ole Miss. But, he's been in the Collins has been, in college for 3 years. I'm not saying he's going to be Kyle McCord or Steve Angeli, but, people just taking it so far. Oh, my God, he's the worst quarterback ever, and put in Luke Carney. I get what they were saying. If the game's out of hand, do you want to give Luke Carney or Jakari Williams some reps? I mean, I guess I understand that, but let's not, overblow this, man. I mean, look, Angeli wasn't great in the first game. I think he had, 274 yards passing. He wasn't great. He was fine, and they lost to a better team at a neutral site with many more Volunteers fans there. But I'm not declaring Ricky, a doomsday thing. Even Fran Brown said in his post-game presser, look, he's got nowhere to go but up, so to speak. But he's confident in him still, and he saw some good things and things he needs to work on. And Ricky owned up to it in his post-game presser, where he talked about, I'm the leader of this team now. I'm the quarterback. I can't make those types of mistakes. But he, seems to have confidence in himself. So just give him a minute. Give him a freaking minute, all right? Give him a minute. We were spoiled last year with Kyle McCord, who led the country in passing yards and set program and ACC records. But before that, Syracuse didn't always have good quarterbacks. So I don't know where it's going to go with Ricky, but let's see how he does against SMU. SMU is 2-2. They had a bye this week. They don't look overly impressive. Their wins aren't anything great. They have 2 losses already. It was all non-conference stuff. But their defense, just like Syracuse's, is really bad. I'm pretty sure that Syracuse, when I looked on Sunday at the most updated stats, Syracuse's defense was last in the ACC in total yards allowed, and I think SMU was second to last. And then SMU was last in the ACC in passing yards per game allowed, but they were like number 7 in rushing allowed. So SMU's defense stinks too. Um, so maybe Ricky can, it's on the road, it's in Dallas. It's not like it's, they got to travel a pretty decent amount, but maybe he can settle in. Maybe being on the road, he'll feel a little less pressure just because it's not before, he was playing before a home crowd, a sellout crowd. They had a lot of long fields. Syracuse didn't get any takeaways, if I'm not mistaken, so he didn't have short fields. So, and, they got off to a bad start and it just snowballed. And it wasn't all on him. People that were blaming Ricky, need to grow up. I'm not saying he was part of the loss. Of course. They scored 3 points. But, it wasn't just him. Cook had 2 fumbles. The defense was awful. Special teams, Jack Stonehouse is a beast, but, the kicking game was fine. But, the return game, the kickoff return game was not good. They didn't have good field position. So, look, I hope Ricky will get better. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season, of course. Quarterback is the most important position in football. I'm stating the captain obvious here. But let's give him some time. But he definitely, he looked rough and he needs to work on his stuff. He does. But if he has another game like that, then I'll be more concerned. But maybe that was just a blip. We'll see. All right, so the Syracuse defense. It's like, what am I supposed to say? And, I don't want to, I hate ripping my alma mater. And I think Elijah Robinson, the defensive coordinator, seems like a good guy. And I'm not, some people are, oh, fire. I'm not saying fire him, but dude, come on. He gave up 38 points. It wasn't just the points. It's like they were missing some tackles. They didn't have a lot of penalties. Had a couple. There's a lot of offensive PI in that game, multiple ones. I think there was 2 on Duke and 1 on Syracuse. It was kind of interesting. But Syracuse was missing tackles. Their pass coverage wasn't great. They gave up a crap. Duke had more rushing yards than Syracuse had passing yards. Duke had over 500 total yards. I think it was 503. And they just ran the ball down Syracuse's throat. And I'm just, it's... The pass coverage wasn't good, but they're not getting, I don't remember, I think they might have had 1 sack and 1 tackle for a loss or 2 sacks, but they're not real good at getting a ton of pressure. The offensive line wasn't great either, although we're talking about the defense here. And it's just I don't know, what the heck is going on with this defense? They gave up 500 yards, if I'm not mistaken, to Clemson. Now, again, the difference is against Clemson, number one, they were on the road in Death Valley, so that's tough. But against Clemson was I think they were 4 of 13 on third down and 1 of 5 on fourth. And then Duke on the road at the Dome was, I think, 6 of 13 on third and 2 of 2 on fourth. Apologies if I butchered that a little bit. But my point is that even though Syracuse gave up a ton of yards to Clemson, they had key stops on pivotal downs and they shut them down in the red zone. And, Duke just ran all over the place, in terms of long runs or catch and runs. And I don't know if Syracuse was just not prepared or tired or whatever. They're obviously on the field a lot, but the time of possession, I feel was relatively even. And yeah, obviously the Syracuse offense being on the field for more sustained drives and scoring points, not putting as much pressure on the defense, that would help too. But this defense is not good, which is a shame because individually they have some good players. I really like this Delorier guy, the freshman linebacker. I think he's solid. I'm not super jazzed on the defensive line. Are you? Let me know what you think. I don't know. I think Gary Bryant III can be a good player, but no one's been real consistent. You got Devin Grant and Deuce in the back, in the at safety with Buxton, and then in the corners you got Peel and Demetrius. They all are serviceable, but no one's they got to get some more pressure on the quarterback. They got to contain the run. They got to tackle. They're just bad. I don't know what else to say right now. It'll be interesting to see if Fran Brown makes any changes with the depth chart this week. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. That's why I'm not the defensive coordinator. And I want them to turn it around, but like they could have the worst defense in the ACC right now. And again, right now, that doesn't mean all season. Ups and downs, starts and stops. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I'll finish up here with some recruiting stuff. So got to give credit where credit is due. So Mike over at 24/7 Sports, McAllister had like a visitor list, and some other folks did. Charles King did at SI, and there's a lot of stuff on social media. But Mike was the first one to report on some of the bigger visitors, and I confirmed with a source of mine, like a very well informed source. So Calvin Russell, the 5-star wide receiver commit, was at the game. I don't think it was an official visit, but he was there. And he's also expected to play for Syracuse basketball. And I was told he was, obviously checking in with both programs and the coaches and players and whatnot. And then Mike did have, and I wasn't able to confirm this on my own, but Nick Lanier, who is a 2027 5-star wide receiver, Syracuse target, and he plays with Calvin at Miami Northwestern Senior High School, and he was in attendance. And there was other 4-stars and 3-stars and commits and recruiting targets. There's a ton. And, as I reported last week, Duron Rippey, the 5-star point guard, was visiting Syracuse basketball. So, it would have been nice to have a better showing on the field. But it's so funny. Like, one of the other places where I write, I reported on Calvin Russell visiting. I confirmed it and all that. And it's like all these people were, like, super jazzed. And then after the game, all these obnoxious comments, oh, he's going to decommit or this. Look. I've been covering recruiting a long time, and it doesn't look good, but Syracuse losing one bad game, Calvin Russell's not decommitting because of that. If he flips, it's not because of this game. If Duron Rippey, and this is basketball related, doesn't choose Syracuse, he chooses another team, it's not because of this game. So, but anyway, they had a lot of big-time recruits and commits there. The Dome was loud, at least initially, and I'm sure they all had a great time. It is what it is. Of course, you want to win and you want it to be thrilling and all that, but stuff happens. And Calvin, assuming that wasn't an official, and I don't think it was, he still can take an official to Syracuse at some point. And analysts can continue to maintain that he is flipping to Miami or Michigan or wherever else, and I really don't give a crap because he's super close with Fran Brown. He's super close with. His family's super close to Fran Brown. They're tight with the basketball staff. So I'm still not worried, but it's something I'll continue to monitor. But I hope he had a good time. I hope all the recruits had a good time. We'll get into more football and basketball recruiting this week. It was a rough loss, friends, but it'll be all right. Let's regroup and prepare for SMU. So, again, hope you had a great weekend, great start to the week. Drop me comments. Let me know what you like, don't like, and this is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.